In the heart of the Peruvian desert, gigantic traces have silently carved the earth for over 1,000 years. They can't be seen from the ground, only from the sky, as if made for eyes that fly. Perfect animal figures, razor-sharp lines, and impossible shapes for a civilization with no known technology. Who drew them, and for whom? The Nazca Lines are not just art. They are codes, maps, callings, and perhaps one of the most unsettling proofs that we have never been alone. They stretch across 450 square kilometers, carved into stone by hands we still don't understand. The Nazca Lines are not just drawings. They're a riddle etched into the earth, and no one has solved them, not even close. In the middle of one of the driest deserts on Earth, there's something that defies logic and history itself. Massive lines etched into the dry ground form images only visible from the sky, as if they were made for eyes that fly. But by whom? And for what purpose? The answer has never been found. The Nazca Lines are not just marks on the ground, they're a cosmic puzzle. Over 1,000 years old, they challenge even modern technologies in precision and scale. Who lived there? How did they build this with rudimentary tools? And why do some figures seem designed to be seen from space? The drawings go far beyond animals or geometric shapes. Some symbols resemble codes, others portals. Among them, a so-called astronaut emerges, a being with large eyes and an ambiguous gesture carved into a desert slope. Is he waving at us? Or at the sky? Traditional archaeologists offer explanations tied to astronomy, agriculture, or religious rituals. But those answers don't satisfy the mystery. Every theory breeds more questions. And the deeper we dig, the clearer it becomes. Maybe this isn't something we were meant to understand so easily. While satellites orbit Peru and drones scan the lines, what truly matters isn't what you see, it's what you feel. A shiver. An ancient calling. A sense that something in that desert lies beyond human comprehension. Something left behind to be discovered, or never fully understood. In this documentary, we will go beyond the official explanations, the buried evidence, and the forbidden legends. We will follow the lines, one by one, like someone decoding an invisible map. A map that doesn't point to places, but to forgotten states of consciousness. Get ready to explore one of humanity's greatest enigmas. Because after this video, you will never see the desert floor the same way again. The Nazca Lines are a portal, and you're about to cross through it. They stretch across 450 square kilometers, carved into stone by hands we still don't understand. The Nazca Lines are not just drawings. They're a riddle etched into the earth, and no one has solved them, not even close. If the Nazca Lines can only be fully seen from the sky, then an inevitable question arises: were they made for human eyes? Or for something beyond? The ancient astronaut theory, supported by authors like Erich von Däniken, suggests these lines are messages to extraterrestrial beings, a visual code cast into the heavens in search of contact. The millimetric precision and monumental scale of the figures are key points in this theory. In an age without airplanes, drones, or satellites, how could the Nazca people create such symmetrical images that only make sense from above? Were they being guided by something, or someone, who ruled the skies? Among the drawings, one figure in particular sends chills down researchers' spines, the so-called astronaut dot. With large eyes and arms raised to the sky, its form is entirely unlike the others. Was it a deity? A shaman? Or the depiction of a star visitor, observed by a people who couldn't comprehend its origin? Others suggest the lines may have functioned as primitive landing strips, based on accounts of long, perfectly straight paths cutting across the desert for kilometers. The region's flat, hard surface could have served as a runway, an idea that, though controversial, has intrigued even aerospace engineers. Some alternative scholars believe the Nazca Lines carry symbolic knowledge that transcends time. They may represent a primitive form of universal geometric writing, accessible only to those who can interpret cosmic codes, a kind of language meant to connect civilizations, or even planets. Of course, mainstream science rejects these theories, stating there's no concrete evidence. But the absence of records, combined with the complexity of the figures and their millennia-long preservation, keeps the doubt alive and growing among independent researchers. After all, why would a people with limited technology create something that can only be admired from above? The answer might lie in the desert sands themselves, or still be buried beneath them. And in the next section, we'll dive into a new mystery. How, exactly, were these lines made with such astonishing precision and symmetry? At first glance, drawing lines in a desert may seem simple. But when those lines form figures hundreds of meters long, with straights cutting across the ground for kilometers and precise curves, the challenge becomes monumental. How did the Nazca achieve this? Without drones, GPS, or even a raised vantage point? The most accepted theory is that the Nazca used a meticulous technique of removing the top layer of soil. The surface sand in the region is dark, but just beneath it lies a lighter sediment. By removing the dark layer using stone, wood tools, or even simple stakes, the lighter and more permanent contrast of the figures was revealed. But what's surprising is not just the method, it's the precision. Some scholars suggest the Nazca developed systems of stakes and ropes to maintain correct proportions, even at colossal scales. A kind of open-field engineering, based on geometry and methodical repetition, capable of preserving perfect lines and exact angles. Traces of wooden stakes have been found in some lines, supporting this hypothesis. However, it still doesn't explain how the creators had an accurate sense of the final result without seeing it from above. How could they ensure a 90-meter hummingbird had symmetrical wings and harmonious proportions without a panoramic view? Supporters of ground-based techniques argue that with geometric knowledge and teamwork, it would be possible. Still, it's undeniable that even with such methods, the execution on such a vast scale with so few visible errors is something worthy of awe and mystery. Moreover, the Nazca created these lines in an arid, sun-exposed terrain, with no shade and no rest. Were they simply following orders from a tribal leader? Or were they carrying out instructions of spiritual, or perhaps non-human, origin? This gap between technical capability and final result is what keeps the enigma alive. And in the next section, the doubts intensify. Could the Nazca have possessed hidden technology? Could they have actually created observation balloons to guide their hands on the ground while viewing from above? Get ready for the improbable. Asterisk asterisk. One of the boldest hypotheses about the Nazca Lines emerged in the 1970s, when two American engineers attempted something unthinkable: to build a hot air balloon using only materials and techniques available to the Nazca people. The result? The balloon flew. And from that moment, an alternative theory was born, one that still divides experts today. What if the Nazca developed a primitive form of flight? Simple balloons made of stitched fabrics, heated with fire, could have provided an aerial view of the lines. This would have allowed them to check the shapes and correct errors in real time. It would be a plausible explanation for the impressive symmetry of some figures. But this theory runs into a fundamental problem. There is no physical evidence of balloons or artifacts to confirm their existence. No preserved fabric, no heating mechanisms, no artistic or ceremonial depictions indicating the use of air as a means of transportation. The entire idea is based on speculation and modern experiments. On the other hand, it wouldn't be the first time a civilization developed something ahead of its time and, for unknown reasons, lost or hid that knowledge. If balloons were indeed used, they may have been destroyed after rituals, consumed by time, or even considered too sacred to be documented. Some go even further. They suggest that the Nazca people weren't just observing the sky, they were being observed. This theory, linked to the fact that the lines are only visible from the air, raises unsettling questions. Were the Nazca trying to communicate with beings who already ruled the skies? Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain: the technology involved in planning and executing the Nazca Lines challenges our conventional view of ancient societies as simple or primitive. They mastered mathematics, proportion, and territorial coordination with a skill that still escapes our full understanding. And in the next section, the mystery takes visible form. What kinds of figures were drawn? What creatures did the Nazca choose to immortalize in the desert, and why? We'll explore the scale, diversity, and hidden meanings behind these ancient lines. When people think of the Nazca Lines, many imagine nothing more than simple marks on the ground. But what lies there is far more than that. We are looking at over 800 straight lines, 300 geometric shapes, and around 70 representations of animals, plants, and humanoid figures. An immense gallery, drawn across a silent and ancient desert. Some of these figures stretch over 300 meters in length, as if the ancient artists had rulers the size of buildings. And even at such colossal scale, the lines are continuous, symmetrical, with no visible flaws. How was this possible without aerial vision or precise measuring tools? Among the most iconic drawings are the hummingbird, the monkey, the spider, the condor, and the whale. But there are also lesser-known figures, like the pelican, the dog, and a shape known as the astronaut, a humanoid silhouette with large eyes, raising one hand toward the sky. This astronaut defies conventional interpretation. To many archaeologists, it's just a stylized figure. But to alternative theorists, it may represent beings observed by the Nazca, or visitors from other worlds. The resemblance to modern depictions of extraterrestrials is, at the very least, provocative. The choice of animals also raises questions. Why depict a hummingbird in a desert where that bird doesn't live? Or a spider drawn with such precise detail that only modern microscopes reveal its internal anatomy today? Could there be a code hidden here? A cryptic message? We're not just facing prehistoric art. The Nazca Lines seem to follow a greater logic, a symbolic connection between sky, earth, and possibly something beyond. Were the Nazca trying to tell a story, or leave instructions for those who would come after? In the next section, we'll dive deeper into this idea, analyzing not just the drawings themselves, but their layout, proportions, and alignments. Get ready, because the puzzle becomes even more intriguing when viewed from above. When viewed from the sky, the Nazca Lines reveal something the ground simply can't show, a complex network of alignments and symmetries, as if they followed an invisible architectural blueprint. Some figures are connected by straight lines that stretch for kilometers without deviation, crossing elevations as if ignoring the natural topography. Studies suggest that many of these lines align with specific astronomical positions, solstices, constellations, and even cardinal points. The hummingbird, for example, points directly toward the sunrise during the summer solstice. Coincidence? Or a deliberate effort to synchronize the sky with the earth? Moreover, the geoglyphs appear to be organized into thematic zones, suggesting that each section of the desert represented a distinct ritual or symbolic domain. This division wasn't random, it follows nearly mathematical proportions. Are we looking at an ancient system of knowledge? Even with modern drones and satellites, the full complexity of the Nazca Lines has yet to be completely mapped. But what has already been revealed is enough to leave scientists perplexed. How did a civilization with no known writing, no wheel, and no compass achieve such a level of precision? Some believe the Nazca may have had access to knowledge passed down from earlier cultures, or even from higher entities. The accuracy of the angles, the repetition of geometric patterns, and the overall harmony suggest something beyond intuition or trial and error. Many of the drawings can't even be fully seen from the ground. And that raises an unsettling question. Who, then, were these images meant for? Were the Nazca communicating with the gods? Or with aerial observers we have yet to comprehend? In the next section, we'll explore another disturbing mystery. How have these lines remained intact for over 1,000 years under such extreme conditions? The answer might take us beyond the boundaries of conventional science. One of the most frequently asked questions about the Nazca Lines is, how have they lasted so long? After all, we're not talking about stone carvings or monumental structures. They are mere grooves in the ground, drawn over 1,000 years ago, with no apparent physical protection. The immediate answer usually points to the climate. The Nazca region is one of the driest places on Earth, with minimal rainfall and almost no wind. This would have allowed the lines to remain intact for centuries. But while logical, that explanation doesn't fully satisfy the more attentive observers. In other parts of the world, ground markings disappear within years, even in arid areas. So what makes the Nazca Desert so different? Why weren't the figures erased by animals, erosion, or even the frequent earthquakes that strike Peru. Some scholars suggest that the Nazca used a special soil compacting technique, removing the dark surface layer of stones to reveal the lighter earth beneath. This color contrast, visible from the sky, would form the outlines, and the weight of the stones along the sides would help keep the lines in place. However, this technique would still require regular maintenance, something difficult to imagine across such a vast territory with few inhabitants. Were these lines created all at once? Or was there an elite class responsible for preserving them as part of a continuous ritual? A bolder theory points to unknown technology or external assistance, perhaps a form of magnetic or energetic stabilization of the soil, inherited from earlier cultures. Something that still escapes our modern methods of analysis. In the next section, we'll dive deeper into this idea. Is there some hidden energy within the lines? Could they be connected to a greater planetary system, like the so-called paths of the gods? ***. Beyond the dry climate and the Nazca technique, some believe the lines have been preserved by something invisible but powerful, a natural energy network of the Earth. These researchers speak of ley lines, ancient energy paths that crisscross the planet like invisible arteries. The Nazca Lines would be strategically positioned over these currents, functioning as interfaces between the Earth and the cosmos. While not accepted by all, this theory gains traction when we observe that many ancient monuments, from the pyramids to Stonehenge, also align with these routes. Other researchers go further, proposing that the geoglyphs themselves are antennas or energy catalysts. As if the desert soil had special properties and the figures amplified or directed some kind of frequency, a subtle, yet highly advanced technology. The field of sacred geobiology suggests that ancient civilizations had an intuitive understanding of the planet's natural forces. The Nazca Lines, then, may have been created to balance telluric energies, harmonize the climate, or even influence the human mind during collective rituals. What if these drawings were more than art or maps? What if they were devices? This hypothesis echoes in modern reports from people who fly over the area, nausea, vivid dreams, or an inexplicable feeling of being watched. All of this points to an unsettling conclusion. Perhaps we still lack the tools to truly understand the real purpose of the lines. And as long as we keep trying to explain them through modern logic, we may be missing something the Nazca people once knew, and we have forgotten. In the next section, we'll explore a deep gap in this mystery. Why did the Nazca never leave written records about the lines? Were they hiding something, or did they trust only those who were ready would understand? ***. When investigating the mystery of the Nazca Lines, one of the most unsettling absences is this. There are no written records explaining why they were created. No texts, symbols, tablets, or preserved oral traditions that clearly tell us what they meant. The Nazca left no inscriptions like the Egyptians, nor codices like the Maya. The absence of writing makes the mystery even denser. How could a people capable of creating 300-meter-long drawings leave not a single documented clue? Some archaeologists believe the Nazca culture was predominantly oral. Their knowledge would have been passed down verbally, through priests or shamans. But if that's the case, how did this knowledge disappear so completely? Others argue that this wisdom was lost with the arrival of the conquistadors. War, disease, and cultural destruction may have erased any trace of Nazca tradition. But why did even the Incas, who came after, preserve nothing about it? Even more intriguing is the fact that the figures are still extremely well planned, following mathematical patterns and geometric proportions. This suggests a high level of organization, a technical knowledge that, strangely, was left behind with no accompanying instruction. This void raises a disturbing hypothesis. What if the silence was intentional? What if the Nazca knew that the true purpose of the lines should only be understood by those who see beyond the eyes? In the next section, we'll continue exploring this absence of records, but now through a new lens. Was this silence imposed by something, or someone? If the Nazca lines represent advanced knowledge, why leave no records? Some theorists suggest that the Nazca were guardians of wisdom that was never meant to be written down, only practiced and passed on orally. This leads us to the idea that certain knowledge was considered too sacred to be written. Writing makes things eternal. And perhaps the Nazca understood that some truths should only be grasped by those who undergo an initiatory process, not just any curious onlooker. But some go even further. According to certain esoteric schools of thought, the Nazca Lines were created with external assistance, not just from mythical gods, but from beings with access to superior technologies or knowledge. And these beings may have forbidden any explicit records. In this scenario, the absence of writing is not a flaw, it's a form of protection. A way to keep the secrets out of reach from those unprepared, spiritually or scientifically, to handle such profound truths. After all, how many ancient civilizations warned that the wrong knowledge in the wrong hands leads to destruction? This idea finds echoes in other cultures: Egyptians who hid sacred wisdom within temples, Tibetans who buried scrolls beneath mountains, and even the lost manuscripts of the Dead Sea. In every case, we see a pattern: knowledge concealed, not forgotten. Perhaps the Nazca knew their codes would only be deciphered at the right moment in history, and that the right eyes somewhere in time would one day understand. And that day may be approaching. In the next section, we'll close this journey with a final provocation. What are the Nazca Lines trying to tell us? And why are we only beginning to listen now? In the face of so many mysteries, one thing becomes clear: the Nazca Lines are not just drawings on the ground. They are ancestral codes, messages buried in time, waiting for attentive eyes to decipher them beyond the obvious. They defy simple explanations. They are not just art, nor merely astronomy, nor only ritual. They float between dimensions: science, spirituality, mythology, and perhaps even interplanetary communication. So many layers surround them that the very silence around the lines already screams for attention. The geometric precision, the colossal scale, the millennia of resistance against time. All of it points to something that goes beyond what we expect from a people labeled primitive. And the more we look, the more we realize how little we truly know. The lines force us to rethink the past. They challenge the official narrative. They suggest that humanity may have already reached great heights of knowledge, only to forget them. And that our history might just be a version, not the absolute truth. What else could be hidden beneath layers of sand, academic convention, and fear of the unknown? How many other enigmas have we not dared to explore because they challenge what has been officially accepted? The Nazca Lines remain there. Silent, misunderstood, but alive. And every new researcher who dares to ask, to doubt, to look again, helps bring a little more light to this ancestral map carved into the desert. Perhaps the answer isn't in what they show, but in what they make us feel, an ancient calling, to remember what we have forgotten.